then we can go ahead and get started. It just might be a minute or so while I'm looking for something I should talk about. Alright.
So my thought process here was that I should probably be taking high ground,
Mm-hmm.
and I usually I'm trying to like I guess farm alt charge at the moment off of either from high ground, and I think what I was trying to keep in mind is like try to look for opportunities or windows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we won this first fight because I noticed that the Ana was just not moving and staying still.
Mm-hmm. Alright,
So I tried to get an early pick.
so far that's all good, like really good. That nothing to add on to that, right? You want to take high grounds, you want to look for opportunities, right? So I have no
Right.
objections so far. Very nice. Okay, so mechanically it seems like we're struggling a little bit. What sensitivity do you have?
I have 8 sensitivity with
Alright,
400 DPI.
400 DPI. Okay, so that's decently low. Do you have a large mouse pad?
I'd say it's about like um a foot and a half wide and about a
Alright.
foot long
And when you
or tall.
aim, are you using your whole arm or just your wrist?
Whole
Or
arm.
both? Okay, so whole
Or
arm,
both.
both.
Because I
Yep.
think yeah,
Which is how you should be doing it. Yeah. So okay.
right.
So nothing wrong there. So then we're gonna basically we'll have to go into some other areas, and whenever I decide to here, we'll go into how we can look to improve our mechanics a bit. But I'm just noticing so far mechanics are seeming a little bit shaky. Good dash mechanics though. All right, so going back on the Ana.
So I thought I would harass Yana since she's not with her team and just like no healing pretty much.
Mhm.
I feel like I could have dashed in and picked her off there and
Yeah, so here it'd probably be better if we just so since Anna's so far away from them and she's not going to be helping at all with the people over on point here, we'd probably be best if we just poked her, made her back off a little bit, and then just came back over to the fight here. Because if we just dash over here, Anna's so far off, which means that she basically right, she's not gonna be able to help for a good couple of seconds, right? Like let's say like 6 seconds, right? She's not gonna be able to do anything to help, and in that time we are helping and participating in the fight. If we are going on the Ana here, then that means that neither of us are participating in the fight, so we both lose value, right? So here we could kind of just scare her off and then be going and getting value, but instead we kind of like just poke at her for a little bit, so that's probably one thing I would say we probably don't want to be doing. Um, the other thing is that as soon as we're done dashing in here, we should probably deflect, right? That's a smart thing to do anytime you're getting. Oh, I guess okay. So we got slept through that. Yeah, so I probably just say this isn't like the best decision to be going for is going for the Ana here. Instead, we should probably going for the point, right?
probably should have focused more on let's see.
All right.
I am sort of a bit lost. Sometimes I'm just like, what should I be doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I know that Genji's very his decisions matter. Like,
Yep. Which I'd say that
and
for most characters in the game. Yep.
right. Um, and the fact that like I'm just sort of being very passive and just reacting to things I see, I noticed like in my I guess tank gameplays, it's has been improving drastically ever since the coaching session with my Genji.
Mhm.
Because I notice more value. Um, However, it still seems like I'm struggling with Genji, even though my other roles have been improving.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to skip there.
it's fine.
So were you going to continue there, or were you done?
Um, I think I'm done. I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
Yep. So far the blade, I like the timing of it. Though again, the mechanics of the blade seemed a bit shaky. We missed a lot of dashes. All right. All right, so we are gonna leave here. We're at 2:35, and we're gonna go over some mechanics stuff and how we can look to become a little bit better with our mechanics and actually doing things. So we're gonna go over a few different things. First off, crosshair placement. Are you familiar with the term crosshair placement?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well
So
then, good.
ideally, I should be pointing at corners and trying to make sure that like I have also cover as well.
Mm-hmm.
So head level is
Mm-hmm.
also another thing that I should be focusing on.
Yep. So you're completely correct. Those are all the things we should be focusing on, yet we're not doing it. So that is something that we want to make sure we're practicing on. And if we, applying that head knowledge to in-game comes from, it's basically just the process of improving and learning, right? So this is going to be how you improve off of anything that we talk about during the session is you essentially make sure that you're focusing on it while you're going through your gameplay. You're not autopiloting, or you're not just focusing on winning, but you're focusing on the thing you're trying to work on, right? So, for example, here, if we're talking about mechanics, which are seeming like a little bit on the weaker side at the moment,
All
we
right.
would be, as we're going through, our brain should look something like this. We're going mechanics, 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 right? And when we do that, then that means that we are putting a bunch of effort, attention, focus, and we're reminding ourselves to constantly be thinking about where's our crosshair pointed, right? Making sure we're at the right spot, making sure we're putting effort into our shots. And when you do that for a long enough period of time, it develops as habits, right? And when it develops as
Right.
habits, we no longer have to put as much attention and effort into it, right? So we just want to make sure that we're putting effort into it. Now, we're going to talk about a bunch of things here. You're not going to want to go over every single thing at once because that's going to get overwhelming. Instead, focus on one category of things or kind of one to three smaller things. But yeah, you just make sure you're focusing on it while you're playing, because if you have the head knowledge, which you seem to have, right? That was what we were about to talk about, is just making sure that we're aiming head level, making sure that we're aiming at corners, right, and where we know people are going to be. But like, even if we have the head knowledge, if it's not applied, then it's useless, right? So we want to
Right.
make sure that we're attempting to apply that and therefore hitting more shots, right? Now, besides that, what was the other thing we're going to go over? So I think we might talk about target priority at some point here. Then blade mechanics. Make sure that when we're going for a blade, that we're just not rushing it, right? But we're picking out where we know people are going to be. So it seems like we may be like rushing blade a little bit. Keep in mind, you do have 6 whole seconds of your blade, so we don't have to be going like dash 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 immediately. Sometimes we can just go in, kill something, right? Oh, lost him. And then look for the next thing to go on, and then look for the next person to go on, right? We don't have to be ghost dashing. We don't have to be dashing immediately, right? So we just want to slow it down a little bit when we're going for a blade. And the other thing is maybe scout before you're going for it and pay attention to like where is everyone positioned, right? That can give us some better awareness and allow us to get off our blade a little bit better, right? When we know where people are at. Right, so we can just go ahead and hop into the thing again here if you already are familiar with crosshair placement, but that was just something that I was noticing because we were hitting quite a few body shots on the Sigma, especially there. So just keep in mind on tanks, we're also aiming a little bit higher than other characters. So we're not just aiming at normal head level, we're aiming higher because they have a bigger hitbox, especially when they're like right on top of us as well. All right, so we're at 2 minutes something. All right, skip forwards here, so you can see here on the Sigma, when we go in on the Sigma, we just hit a whole lot of body shots, so we just want to make sure we're aiming up higher. So this just means we're doing a lot more damage, right? Body shot, body shot, body shot, body shot, body shot, right? Just a whole lot of body shots. Make sure we're using
I think.
deflect. Go ahead.
All right. I think I need to respect the Anna a bit more because I think she's saving her resources or her utilities just for me. I
Yep.
think.
And I would also say that we have not used deflect once so far, right? Deflect is a pretty big ability that
Right.
that both gives you defense and offense at the exact same time. So when, for example, we're going up against Liana and she throws a sleep, this both defends us, but also uses it offensively to now sleep Liana. She uses nade on us, and both defends us from the nade, but also uses it defensively to hit Liana. Right? Soldier uses Helix, defends us. Helix is the soldier. So anytime we're in like a 1v1 scenario, deflect is going to be a pretty nuts ability. We want to make sure we're using it, but so far we have not used it, and then that's going to keep us from, is going to get us slept, is going to get us naded, is going to basically kill us. So we want to make sure we're using our deflect much more often, especially for the defense. Deflect is a pretty defensive ability. Your deflect and your dash can both be used for offense and defense, right? You can use your dash as offensively, and you can use it defensively to dash away. You can use deflect offensively, and you can use it defensively to get yourself away. Most of the time, though, it's going to be dash is offensive and deflect is defensive, though they can swap roles in certain scenarios. In this instance, and so far, we just haven't been using deflect at all. And when we don't use abilities, they don't get value. So we want to make sure that we're using it because that stops us from getting slept here, stops us from getting slept before when Ana shot us before with the other sleep, right? And then that keeps us alive. So we just want to make sure we're using that ability, not holding on to it.
I return to the fight.
One bad habit that I've been trying to iron out is just randomly jumping in the open.
Mhm.
Um,
So on Genji, that is
mhm.
more acceptable. On any other character, that's not a thing you want to be doing. Right? On Genji, that's a little bit more acceptable because of the fact that he has two jumps. When he has two jumps, that means that you have more control over your movement while you're midair. Why it's bad on any other character is because on any other character, you become super, super easy to headshot and kill while you're jumping around. Because when you go up, you have to come down, and therefore your movement is very easy to predict, and you cannot control your movement. On Genji, though, you have two jumps, and you can redirect your momentum while you're midair. So it actually is pretty difficult to hit again jumping Genji in comparison to other characters who are jumping. So honestly, it's not too bad of a habit to have on Genji, and you're gonna want to double jump a lot on Genji. So honestly, I wouldn't say that that's too bad of a habit to have. Though on any other character, that would be a bad habit to have. Right. Here when you're coming out of spawn, just look to use your dash. Right. By the time we get back to the fight, we're gonna have another one, and this just gets us back faster. So this is just a habit you want to get into. Is pretty much anytime you're coming out of spawn, unless you're just regrouping and waiting for your team, dash out so you get back to the fight faster. Because here we just don't use dash, and then that means that we're coming back a lot slower, and it means we can kill things slower. Right.
I require healing.
Okay. I like that we requested healing.
Thanks.
All right, target priority. So, target priority is what do we want to be shooting at? And in general, tanks aren't that. Tanks are not what we want to be shooting at most of the time. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They are also don't have as much statistical output. So, for example, they are a very, very important role in the game, but their job is to create space for supports and DPS. Whereas DPS do the damage, supports do the healing. Therefore, they have statistical output, and they're what we want to kill, and also the easiest things to kill, especially for a Genji who can easily get on them. Now, what that means is doesn't mean that we never ever shoot at tanks, but anytime we have equal opportunity, right? So we can either go on a Lucio or an Ana and a soldier or a Sigma, right? We go for something else that's easier to kill, right? Because we have equal opportunity to go for them, or we actively seek them out. We seek out the easier target to kill. But that's also, again, it's not that we never shoot at tanks. We shoot at tanks when they are low. We shoot at tanks when they are out of position. We shoot at tanks when they are the only thing to shoot at, when we can't shoot at anything else. But a lot of the time here, it seems like we're kind of actively seeking out the tanks, and we're not actively seeking out the other rules. So we did that on Ana at the very beginning, so it was good that we went on the Ana. But besides that, we've been on Sigma quite a bit. And we just want to make sure that
Right.
we're on some of the other characters, especially like when we have the equal have the option to go on like a Lucio here, for example, right?
I feel like it's very easy to lose focus as a Genji,
Mhm.
which is probably why I started shooting at the tanks because that's sort of like a comforting thing. Because it's like, oh, big easy target, just
Yep.
spam damage and shoot them. But I think the fact that I wasn't looking around is just like a bad habit of not like looking at my options and
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
thinking that, oh, just attack that's whatever's in front of you.
Yep, and that's tunnel visioning, and that's a lack of awareness. Awareness allows you to make good decisions when you know what's happening around you, right? If you have the option between Lucio and Sigma, you can pick to go on the better thing. If you do not know that, you do not have the option, and therefore poor awareness or lack of awareness leads to bad decision making because you cannot inherently make good decisions when you don't know what's happening around you. So we want to make sure that we're not tunnel visioning, because I don't think tunnel visioning is ever really going to have any advantage or any benefits to it. You want to make sure you're being aware of your surroundings by looking left, looking right, making sure we're not just staring at a crosshair and doing a slow pan, right? But we want to make sure we're looking around us and paying attention to our surroundings, right? Because when we don't do that, then we have poor awareness of what's happening. Okay. Again, whenever we die, deaths are really bad. So far, we've died 3 times. Now it's not a terrible death rate, but it's also not the best because we've died a lot of easily preventable deaths, and deaths are bad, right? Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
When you die, you are dead for 10 seconds of respawn time and roughly 10 seconds of walk back time. So time it's taking you to get back to the fight. That is now 20 seconds per death that you are not just not existing, but also being picked in the middle of the fight, which puts your team at a disadvantage. So us dying here is probably going to lose our team the fight, when us being alive here could potentially win our team the fight if we're actively doing things and getting kills and whatnot, right? So we want to make sure we're really, really paying attention to our deaths and making sure we're trying to cut out deaths. Because, for example, let's say we just, we have 3 deaths in 3 minutes. So that's just roughly a death a minute, right? 17 minutes. That means that at this rate, we'd have maybe cutting out like in between rounds and whatnot. We'd have maybe like 15 or 16 deaths this game if we just kept up that rate, right? That is a lot of deaths, right? That is roughly, let's see, just get a calculator out real quick, right? That's let's just say 14 to round it down, right? Divided by 3, right? So that means that you would not have participated in the match for 4 minutes, 0.6, right? 4.6, 4 minutes and like like
Out of
and a half, right?
17.
Exactly. That is a lot of time, and I want to emphasize that, or I just say it again, 4 minutes of gameplay, even more, 4.5 minutes of gameplay where you are not participating and actually negatively affecting your team and losing fights, right? So if we can cut out, for example, right, 3 deaths, then that's an entire minute that we have gained back. We're now down to 3.5 minutes, right, where we've not participated. We cut out an extra 3. Now we've cut out 6 whole deaths. Now we have gotten back 2 whole minutes, and we are now down to 2 minutes and a half that we are not participating in and negatively affecting. So that's an entire like ult and a half. That is multiple kills, tons of damage, multiple abilities that you can use, right? And multiple fights where you're actively participating and doing things. So death's very, very big thing, and you want to make sure you're concentrating on staying alive. And there's also a very, very easy way to self-improve. Basically, I never got coaching up until I had already hit my peak. So I went from silver to 4468, all self-taught, basically, right? And how I did that was I looked at my mistakes, and deaths are, like we just discussed, are very big mistakes, and usually they're easily identifiable of why we died, right? We can look at those mistakes and go, why did I die, right? Think about it. Were we out of position? Were we too aggressive? Were we not aware of our surroundings? Did we misuse our abilities, right? So we think about it. What was the mistake? Then we come up. The second step to that is, what was the solution to the mistake? So if we're out of position, where could I have been standing instead? If we misuse our abilities, how could we have used our abilities instead, right? And then finally, it's the application process and making sure that we're actually applying it. So looking back on this death, because I'd probably say around 75% of deaths you're going to be able to improve off of. You're going to be able to say, I could have done this, I should have done this. 25% of them, not really much you could have done, but most of them you can, and here there's definitely something we could have done, right? So if you rewatch this death, what is something we could have done to stop the death from happening?
Probably just looked around a bit more.
Okay, so I would say 2 things here. We died from not using abilities, okay, because we could have deflected and negated damage. We could have dashed to get out of the open, and the second thing is we're also in poor positioning, right? So we'll go over the positioning real quick. So 327. So we were in poor positioning there because we were out in the open. So we're just going to demonstrate how you can actually use good positioning and why that's poor positioning, right? One moment here. So basically, if we are standing right here, right, and there's a whole enemy team and they're all standing over there and they're all shooting at us, it takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover, right? Now, here behind cover, we cannot get shot at through walls, so we are safe here. But in the time it took us to get here, we died because we were so far away from cover. Now, from here, we can do pretty much most of the same things, and there's cover everywhere, right? If we wanted to get closer, all we'd have to do is come up here, right? There's cover everywhere, and in that, instead of being 3 seconds behind cover, instead we can take half of a second to get behind cover because we're right next to it, right? Very, very little time, and now we can negate ultimates, abilities, damage. Whenever we're low, we can duck behind cover. So that means that, therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover and not being near cover at all. And there's a lot of different types of cover, right? We can use slopes like this, right? See us, can't see us, right? Pillars, right? So we can duck behind this when we're reloading, in between shots, right? We can do this when we're low, we're getting shot at, ulted at, right? Corners are going to be very much useful as they're all over the place. Random objects we can find, use the payload like this, and pillar, corner, doorway, right? Corner, all different covers, right? And then all of high ground axis cover. When we're up here, right? They can see us, now they can't see us. You can see us, now you can't see us. We add in a thing, right? So all of high ground axis cover, so that makes high ground really fantastic for us. But then the other thing is that high ground, most characters in the game can't get to high ground, right? Which just makes high ground extra good. And then the characters that can get to you need to use abilities. And then on top of that, you have tons of visibility. We can be shooting over here, over here, over here, over here. But if we're on the low grounds, right, now we can't see anything over there. We can't see anything over there, and we can't see any of the high ground, right? Now there is a poor way to use high ground, and this is how we just used high ground, is by doing this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people can see us, maybe 6 if we include that guy. Can we shoot at 5 people at once?
No.
Can 5 people at once shoot at us?
Yes.
Yes, so that means that we probably don't want to be doing this because we're going to be taking a heck ton of damage, and that is what happened, and we died as a result. So instead, we can back up away from the ledge. We can, right? Now, if we want to see where everyone's at real quick, we can peek, back up, or if we're like ulting or something like that and we want to see everybody, then we can, right? But instead, we're just going to kill one person at a time, right? Or just not let anybody see us while we're on the high ground, right? Same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4 people can see us. We move left, now one person can see us. We move back a little bit, and they can only really see just a little itsy bit of us, right? So that's just proper cover usage. There, when we died in our game, we were out in the open, nowhere near cover, and we didn't use our abilities, right? Our ability, that was poor positioning to start off, but our abilities could have bailed us out of that because we could have basically used our abilities to bail out our poor positioning because we could have dashed over to cover and dashing away from the damage, or we could have deflected while we ran over to cover, right? So if, like, for example, if we're stuck in this bad positioning, we could deflect while we back up, and then that means that we get away, or we could just dash away. Now, this doesn't mean that we want to be over here, because now that means that we just wasted an ability when we could have just used it aggressively, but it is a thing that you could have done to stop yourself from dying, right? Alright, so we are... Now, I think we started slightly late here, so I'm going to give it... actually, I don't know if we're going to do a... usually I do a strengths and weaknesses of like what I'm looking at, but I think we started slightly late here, so I'm just going to skip out on that part, and we'll just do that at the very end, and we'll go over kind of what are the main points that we're looking at, instead of doing that right now. Alright, so we just died here. Skipping forwards. Right?
I noticed that my alt charge isn't
Oh, sorry, I meant to press pause there. Good.
isn't like building up, and I'm just like constantly worrying like, oh, I'm not being productive because of that.
Alright, well, I mean, I don't think that it's been super slow. It seems like we've gotten an ult, our ult's been coming up at a decent pace in comparison to everybody else. But in general, you'll just notice that the more we focus on actually doing things, the more ult charge we're gonna get. If you're just poking the entire time on Genji, you're actually going to be getting the least amount of ult charge, right? But when you're actually going in and actively trying to kill things, actively trying to do things aggressively, that's where our ult charge actually starts to come up. So far we have not used deflect. Very rarely have I seen us dash through people. We've just kind of played super passively, and I would probably like to see us play a little bit more aggressively, looking for more opportunities. So I probably say that that's the problem we're running into. The other thing I would say is with our positioning, look to make sure we're constantly trying to stay within our dash range on people. Now, it's not going to be an option all the time. If our entire team's dead, we're not going to want to do that. But whenever it's an option, try to stick within dash range of people, as that allows us to finish off kills very fast, and that's how you want to look to finish off most of your kills if possible is with a dash. So look to stick within dash range because that's where Genji benefits the most from actually shooting at things, because he likes to right click whenever possible because it does faster damage. He wants to be able to dash at people to do extra damage. Deflect's going to be easier to land when you're closer to people. So Genji's kit just wants him to be close. He doesn't like it when he's far away from people. So we just want to make sure we're a little bit closer to people, and we can both be aggressive and be survivable if we're using cover properly. But so far, it seems like we're really far away from people, and I don't know if that's if ult charge is necessarily just because we're not poking for ult enough. But I'd probably say it's more so that we're just not doing enough, and like you're saying, and that means that we need to be doing more to get more ult charge. So, but yeah, we'll continue here and we'll see what happens. So, a lot more focusing the D.Va, right? So you can see here when we kind of dash in. We dash through, we get some ult charge, so that's good. But look at our kind of target priority. We go D.Va, we look at Lucio, we lose him, we go back to D.Va, we're going to the Doomfist. Right, now we're back. Oh, now we swap to the Lucio. Right, so our target our focus is like all over the place, and we keep swapping targets, and we're not really focusing one thing down. Now that's okay if we identify a better target. So let's say we're shooting at the Doomfist, and then now Doomfist goes away and Lucio's right next to us, or we're looking at Doomfist and Lucio's 1 HP, and then of course swap to the better thing to shoot at. But we don't want to be swapping one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, right? Like 4 times in a fight, because then that means that we're never focusing one thing down and securing that kill. When we keep swapping between things, we are spreading our damage out between 4 different targets, and that means that if we took all of that damage and put it into one target, they probably would have been dead by then, right? We probably could have killed them. So we want to make sure we're not swapping targets so frequently here.
Much better. My ultimate is ready.
All right. So here we stayed in way too long, so we're going to go over how to tell whether or not a fight has been won or lost. So basically, you want to make sure you're paying attention to kill feed. Kill feed is the top right corner of your screen. It tells you whether or not you're up or down kills. When you are up 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage. When you have an advantage, you play more aggressively because they have less people to shoot at you, heal, tank, right? You just can get away with more. When they are down, when you are up, right? Your team is up 2 to 3 people. That is where you have pretty much won the fight. At that point, you don't want to use ults, because if you ulted, it would be overkill, and you want to look to go in super aggressively so you can get a stagger the enemy team. Now, this also goes the exact opposite way. When you are down 1 to 2 people, that means that you're at a disadvantage, right? That doesn't mean that you've lost the fight yet, but you might want to play more passive because you are losing the fight. When you are down 2 to 3 people, that is where you have lost the fight. Now, at that point, you don't want to use any more ults, because if you did, it's not going to change the fact that you lost. It's just going to be a waste. And then on top of that, you want to look to get out if possible. And if you can't get out, you want to look to let them kill you, so that you don't end up staggering yourself. Are you familiar with the term staggering?
Yes, like try to die with the team if you can, or try to avoid getting staggered. Like I know divas, whenever they demech, and the last one to, I guess, be killed, the people oftentimes will just save them until last second.
Exactly. Like so basically, what it does, right, is it means that we die when we die super late, we go back to spawn, and if our team waits for us, right, then we've just wasted a ton of time. And if our team does not wait for us, then now they're going in without their whole team. And like we just discussed, that means that they're going in at a disadvantage or even into a already lost fight. And then that can start stagger trains where, let's say Lucio goes in right here because he's, bronze and he's not paying attention to where his team is. Then he goes in and he dies. And then Ball goes in and he dies. We just keep going in one by one. So that starts when that can start when we stagger ourselves. And here in this fight, we stayed in way too long. So if we went back here, we would see that we lost this fight right around. Or let's get this back open. Right, we lost the fight around this point. Right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, this is a lost fight. Now we want to be looking to get out. We could definitely get out here. We have deflect and dash available. We actually get away from them. We kind of back up here behind the corner. So we could just very easily just turn around right here and just walk out or dash out or deflect out or anything. But we kind of hide for a bit. We poke for a bit and then we go back in, which just means that we die extra late here. Right. And then that just means that we staggered, right? So we just want to make sure we're paying attention to the kill feed so that we're paying attention to whether or not we've won or lost. And that a lot of times will lead to a better awareness of what's happening around us.
I think it's more of the fact that I'm being overwhelmed because I do acknowledge the kill feed whenever I'm playing tank, but it's just there's so much to digest as Genji that you oftentimes just don't pay attention to things that you normally should be paying attention to.
Yeah, so it's not that you need to pay attention to everything all at once always. You pay attention to certain things when the game tells you need to. So when nothing is right now, there's nothing happening kill feed. Therefore, we do not need to pay attention to kill feed. When kill feed opens up and things start happening, then all we need to do is glance at it. We don't need to see. We don't need to see who killed them. We don't need to see what characters are up there. We just need to see blue killed red or red killed blue. 2 blue killed red, or 2 blue killed red, 2 red killed blue, right? So we're even, right? So we just do the quick maths real quick. We don't need to be paying attention to literally everything all at the same time, and all has their specific instances. We don't need to pay attention to our health bar unless we've seen we've taken damage. If we saw that we took damage, or we heard we took damage, or we saw the red marks on the corner of our screens, then we glance at our health bar. We don't need to pay attention to our health bar every single second of the game, though. Right? We don't need to pay attention to our ultimate unless we see we have our we can glance down at it for half a second and see, okay, we have our ultimate. Now let's think about our ultimate. So we just want to make sure that we are doing the rounds and we're paying attention to things, right? Because when you pay attention to things, that's where you're actually able to start making good decisions. So I would say to concentrate on that. And once you get into good habits about it, like we talked about before, then you don't need to really think as much about it, right? It just comes naturally. So if you build up good awareness habits, then it'll get to the point where you've trained so much with it that it just comes naturally and it's not overwhelming anymore, right? So just make sure focusing on it, as awareness is seeming like a bigger thing here so far on our Genji. And let's see how we use our blade here. Alright, so it looks like we were about to dash him, but then they just beat it.
So I tried to just wait it.
Yep. Now, here we're not really doing much, so this is where we get into actions per minute. And the thing that we were talking about before of just we're playing a little bit passive is actions per minute is basically just how much are we doing per minute. If you compare a Grandmaster player to a Bronze player, a Grandmaster player is going to be efficient with every single second of the game, and they're constantly doing something, right? Whether it be reloading, to shooting at something, to paying attention to ult, to being aware of the surroundings, to ulting, to doing something. They're always doing something with every single second of the game. Whereas a Bronze player might be walking around a bit, shoot, okay, and then we're just gonna wander around, right? And then we're gonna shoot, and then we're gonna do nothing, right? So it's just a lot less efficient, and actions per minute just means we're trying to do more as often as possible. Here, when we wait out the beat, that's fine, but you'll also notice that we wait out the beat. Beat is gone by this point right here, right? Beat is gone, yet we kind of still sit around for even longer past this, right? So beat's gone, but we sit around for 1, 2, 3, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8. All right, 9. All right, now we're actually going into something, right? But we just kind of sat around for almost 10 seconds there, where we weren't really doing much. We weren't getting aggressive. We weren't getting within our preferred range. on things. We're kind of poking from a distance. We weren't ulting, which that would I'd probably say we want to be ulting here, right? So that's just all problems we want to make sure we're doing. Right now at this point, we probably don't want to ult, but we did want to probably ult before to just make this fight go faster and actually get value out of it. So yeah, we just didn't really do much there, and then that's where you just want to make sure you're doing more as often as possible. Now this is where we get into a problem, is we just bladed right here when it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus 3, right?
Yes.
So at this point, we have won this fight, and therefore Blade is overkill. We would have, basically we're going to win no matter what. We win this fight almost guaranteed. Now there's maybe like a 5% chance that they come back and win it, but do we want to sacrifice Blade for a 5% chance of them winning when we could come into the next fight where they have a 50% chance of winning, right? So we just want to instead hold on to our Blade and just kill them normally, right? That way we actually have our Blade for the next fight. The other thing when it comes to Blade timing is you first off want to make sure you're not holding on to it, because we kind of held on to it for like a I guess never mind. We held on to it for just maybe like a fight, like so one half of a fight, another half of a fight. So we just want to make sure we're using it fast, which it doesn't. We're not too terrible with. I know some people will hold on to it for like 4 fights in a row, but just make sure you're using it pretty much in any fight that you have it, as long as the fight has not been won or lost yet. Right now, on top of that, make sure you're blading as early as possible. Right. Not so early that your team can't follow up to you. You don't want to blade when you're kind of in the poking fight, when teams are just kind of like pew 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 shooting at each other. But once the fight has actually started, you want to use it early, right? There's a few different
Once
reasons.
tanks engage, you should
Yep,
probably follow up, not just
exactly, right. And
go blade in without any, because there's no one, there's no Anna that's gonna like nano me. There's no, I mean, I might get a mercy pocket, but
yep. So generally, ults that are used first just get more value than ults that are used second. So a good comparison here would be to say, let's say that they have a Genji on the enemy team, and their Genji blades first. Now that means that Genji gets kills and he gets damage in, and as we discussed, when they get kills, that either puts them at an advantage or that puts them at a 1 fight. And that means that if we use blade second, Blade, they already have the advantage, and we have less people to follow up with us. We have less team support. We basically, even if we get picks with it, it's just not going to do as much as if we had used it before they did, right? Because the other thing is that if they Blade first, they might force us to hold on to it. So, for example, let's say like they get 3 kills, that means we might want to just hold on to our Blade, but now that we never got a chance to. If we bladed before that, we might be able to win the fight and therefore not be forced to hold on to it again. So we just want to make sure we're not holding on to it. Here we used it very, very late in the fight and after we already won. So just some timing with the blade. Alright, so let's look at the mechanics of this blade. So we... Okay, good kill. So when we blade, we're looking at the Genji. Or at the Lucio. So we get booped away. We dash back at him. Right, we get him. After we get him here, we want to make sure we're dashing at the next thing. We see this thing though, we're kind of like late to dash at him there.
I think I panicked at the Doomfist. I was just like, wait, do I go for him or the Sigma? And considering Sigma was already half and he's an easier target,
Yep.
I probably should have just reacted sooner.
Probably should have, yep. And on top of that, when we're going on the Lucio as well, make sure that we're kind of expecting him to boop us away. So here we're kind of slow with the reaction, so we kind of are unprepared for the boop. Right, he boops us, and then we kind of flail around, and we're not really ready for it. So just make sure we're ready for it, so we can instantly dash back after him, and so just when we know we're going up against Lucio, expect to get booped away. Right, is the only thing I would say there. Okay, make sure we're not dashing into a bomb, right? So pay attention to your surroundings, right? So if we're trying to get away from the Doomfist here, we have a couple different options, right? So we got boot back. We can drop below us, right? Now we get to behind cover. We can request healing. Make sure whenever you're under pressure that you request healing. I saw us do that before. You just want to get in the habit of doing it pretty much anytime you need healing, right? That way, your teammates know where you are on the map, right? The other thing is we have both deflect and dash. Now we haven't used deflect at all this game yet, and we also want to make sure we're just, instead of dashing forwards, we want to dash like a different direction, right? We could drop and then maybe like dash to get the health pack, or we could dash over here or just something, but we just want to make sure we're paying attention to the bomb. So here, that comes in at audio awareness, that comes in on visual awareness. We want to make sure we're paying attention to the bomb here, because then that results in us panicking. Other thing is just make sure you don't panic, right? Because when we panic, that results in bad decision making. Try to kind of take yourself out of the game, right? And go, okay, this is a video game. It's not, life or death here. If I die, if I lose, it doesn't do anything. Therefore, you're going to have more fun if you're not panicking, because you're actually going to be performing better. So try to, take the panic out of the situation by remembering that it's nothing insanely important, right? So that's
It's
going to
just a
help.
game.
Exactly. It's just a game. And therefore, when we do that, we're going to have more fun because we're actually winning. So just try not to panic here. All right, we get bombed, another death, we get rezzed. Honestly, so far it seemed like one thing I would commend you on is that we do have really good awareness of when should we be left clicking versus right clicking. That's really good. I like we seem to have our ranges down and our situations down. We like once in a while we'll mess it up, but that it's most of the time it's really good. Okay, here we want to be getting super aggressive on these guys, so we can go get forward and get the staggers. We kind of seem to be a little bit passive, right? This is a situation where we wanted to get aggressive on them, right? Because it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
6 versus 1, 2, 3, and we just kind of sat back a little bit. And if we kill these guys, then we stagger them, right? We get kills. It means that they're not coming in as a full team, and it means that we waste more time, and it means that we can potentially get them to do a stagger train. So we just want to be getting aggressive here again, and that gets us more ult charge as well. We just more playing passive.
I know as a tank, I would be just like, try to get as much like space as I can,
Hmm?
and whenever I'm in like I guess Genji or when I'm playing Genji, I'm sort of just like, all right, I should probably be going forward, but what do I do at that point? It's like sort of
All right.
um, I
So
understand
how
the
do I get out?
value of certain things. It's just like, what do I do with this information, or you know, it's sort of just like a lot of like I said, a lot to digest.
Yeah. So just keep in mind when we are up picks, we get aggressive. When we're down people, we play passive, right? And we just kind of want to understand that and make sure we're applying it, right? So when it seems like what a big thing we're struggling with is the application process, I would say, and that's
Right.
going to be what most people in bronze are going to struggle with, especially if you've been here for silver borders amount of time. Is it's a lot of the information, but you're not able to actually apply that. So you want to make sure that you're actually getting good practice in, and you're not autopiloting or tunnel visioning or panicking while you're playing, but instead we're focusing on the things we're trying to improve on, and therefore we will improve if we're doing that. So while we're playing here, if we're trying to focus on awareness and decision making, which is seeming like one of the bigger things at the moment, which will affect our ability to get aggressive, to not use bad ults, to stay alive longer, and do the right things at the right times, then we want to make sure that we're paying extra attention. We're putting a lot more effort into that specific area. And then once we do that for long enough, we're going to get better at it, right? If we're trying to just get better at everything at once, like I said before, it's not going to work out too well for us. And that's where you get overwhelmed. And that's where you get, like you were just saying, is that's where you get kind of unsure or overwhelmed with what's happening around you and not sure. A lot to digest was the wording you used, right? And there's a lot to do all at once. So instead, you look to make it simpler on yourself. Focus on one thing, focus on just paying attention to your surroundings, focus on doing that. And then as that gets better, you no longer have to put as much attention into it. Right? So here we're low. Make sure you request healing when you're low. That way your supports know. We did it before. Just make sure your supports know where you're at. Make sure you're getting aggressive when you have a lot more focusing on like the Sigma here. When soldiers was right here a second ago when he was just really easy to go on. So target priority, as well as the fact that make sure you're getting aggressive when you have beat available, because you have like 700 health, right? So we just want to get aggressive in that time when we have that health available. Okay. All right. Okay, deflect. Okay, so we died again. We think, why did we die? Okay, well, first off, we're dueling a Reaper when he's an inch from us, so we might want to, when we see that it's a Reaper, right, we want to pay attention to team comp they're on. This is another awareness thing, and we always change our playstyle accordingly, or we change how we're approaching the situation. This is another awareness thing. I would, whenever some people have problems with, I always assume this, that basically if you know what's happening, you're going to make the good decision. I would almost definitely certainly say that you understand that Reaper's better when you're an inch from him than you are. So therefore, don't stand right next to him, right? Um, Now on top of that, we have deflect that again negates damage to yourself, does damage back at Reaper, stops you from taking damage, and then we also have dash where we can, if we see, oh snap, this is a bad, I'm outmatched here. They have an Ana, a Winston, and a Reaper on us, right? I'm outmatched. I should just back out. Which you don't keep in mind. That's a move you can always make. Is you don't have to take every duel you're in. Is we can just turn around and dash back to our team, right? That's another option we have. The other thing to keep in mind here is that we're just really, really far ahead of our entire team, and that makes us just a really easy target to go on. So just pay attention to where's my team positioned, where's the enemy team positioned, right? So that we can make better decisions and not be super, super far pushed forwards, right? Now we're coming up on the end of the session here, so we're gonna go and do a review of all the things we talked about. What are the talk about what are the main points and kind of strengths and weaknesses you have, and then we can wrap up the session from there, right? So starting off, we'll just go around the block here, right? Starting off with ability usage. Deflect I never saw us use it once, right? And that's a pretty important ability to use, right? We died quite a bit in a lot of the situations, right? We just using deflect would have given us a lot of better of a fighting chance to stay alive, right? So we just want to make sure we're using the abilities that aren't used get 0 value, right? We've gotten 0 deflect value that last game just because we didn't use it at all, right? So we want to make sure we're using it, and times where we would use it, and you'll get, like, the more you use it, the better you'll get with knowing when to use it, like if you're practicing with it, right? You're never going to get better at using it if you never use it. But you deflect when you know people are shooting at you, right? So if we're in a duel, right, and we just deflect, now we're not taking damage, and they're taking all the damage that they're putting at us. So it's a double effect there. We're getting twice the value than if we were just shooting at them. Right? If we're just shooting at them, then they take damage and we take damage. If we deflect, we're deflecting important abilities. We're not taking damage and they are taking damage. Right? A lot of the time, deflect is going to be used as a defensive ability, so keep that in mind. It can be used defensively, especially if you see big abilities coming in that you can just deflect really easily, or a ton of damage. But other than that, you're going to be using it a lot of the time to when you are low, when you're out of position, when you're just trying to not die, right? So you just make sure we're paying attention to when we die, did we use deflect, did we not use deflect, right? Try to use it more often. Besides that, I think our dash usage was pretty okay. I didn't see too many problems with it. One just quick thing to go over with dash is just make sure that when you're right next to somebody that you're not just dashing through them like that, and then that makes the follow-up very difficult.
Aim at their feet.
Yes, exactly. Aim at their feet, right? That way you can kind of end up right next to them rather than going all the way past. You can jump up in the air. That makes it easier. So if we jump up, we kind of get a downwards angle, which makes it easier to do that. But besides that, not too much of a problem with our dash.
I
Now,
think I tried eliminating dashing just to close distance. I tried to avoid doing that because it's not really like if I don't deal damage or finish off a character, then it's just a dash wasted, and now I have no escape, right?
well,
Or my only escape is
yeah.
deflect.
So you can use it to close distance a lot of the times. Actually, it really depends on the situation. Everything's always going to be situational. Deflect is going to give you a really good option. You always want a way to get out, right? You can, for example, like we could dash like up, like if we wanted to, we could dash like up like this, where we go boom, and then we use that dash to do damage and to get out of the fight, right? We can use dash in aggressively and use our deflect to get out, right? So we can get in aggressively and then dash as we're backing out, and then we're around the corner, right? So you always want to have a plan, and dash can be used to close the distance sometimes, not all the time. But the other thing is that you're going to want to try to stick within dash distance so you don't need to close the distance, right? You're not needing to close the distance if you're already within dash range, which we talked about with positioning, right? Is dash range is like 15 meters here, right? So we want to make sure we're trying to stick within this range on people so that we're not having to even dash to close the distance most of the time, right? Now moving on to blade usage. Timing wise, right? Make sure we're not using it in fights that have been won or lost, which we'll talk about when we talk about awareness. Right? Make sure that we're using it early in fights because that's where they get the most value, and make sure we're not holding on to it as well. We did pretty good. We did pretty good with not holding on to it though. That was pretty good. Put a lot more focus and attention into making sure we're getting good blades off. Try not to panic with it. Be a little bit slower in how we're approaching it. Try not to just go dash 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 immediately, but we can dash at somebody, make sure like while you're killing them, we're looking around for somebody else to go to next, right? Before you're going for it, scout. So that means just like look around and go where's everyone I'm trying to go on at, right? So we have like that way we're not just like going in blind, but we're going in with no knowledge and information and awareness of where's everyone at. All right, now moving on from there, we go to mechanics. Mechanics, you seem to know what you have to do, but there's just to reiterate, there's a few different things here. Crosshair placement, right? Make sure we're aiming head level. Make sure we're aiming where we know people are going to be. Make sure we're really focusing in on mechanics so we can improve on it. And then besides that, some other areas to go along with it is actions per minute, and that's kind of we'll put that in mechanics because what do you say?
I was gonna say combos. I know that with the 15-meter dash, you throw your primary or mouse 1 into a dash, and then you hold down right click as you're dashing forward. You should be able to just finish them off.
Yeah. You're not able to. That would mean that you just right click as you come out of the dash because you can't right click while you're in the middle of a dash. But I probably say like, well, yeah, you're right. You would left click first, but instead you just follow whenever you see that you're gonna end up within melee range, you just follow it up with a melee. If you see that you're outside of that, then you would follow up with a right click, right? If we dash past, we follow up with a right click afterwards. But we don't necessarily need to right click immediately afterwards. You can melee, and a lot of times that's a good finisher, right? So we can kind of go shoot, 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 melee, right? And then we can add in a right click afterwards. It kind of it fits in well with the combo. But besides that, I don't think we had too much of a problem with combos at all. So I wouldn't say that's something we need to focus on too much. Yeah, mechanics, actions per minute. Make sure we're doing things more often and we're not AFKing or sitting around. So we're actually just actively participating more often and trying to do things constantly. All right. Besides that, with mechanics, make sure we're focusing the right targets. Right. Primary focus targets are going to be non-tanks. Right. So DPS and squishies. If a squishy is keeping alive a DPS and pocketing them, focus them first. Right. But other than that, just make sure we're focusing them, not the tanks, right? Because we don't want to be shooting at tanks all the time. Now moving on to positioning. Positioning, two different things, right? First off, make sure that we're not on the open. Don't stand here. Stand over here next to cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover, right? And then on top of that, make sure we're within our dash range, right? So we can actually dash at people like we talked about before. Take high grounds whenever it's an option and it's like kind of next to the fight. You don't want to take high ground if it's like super far away from the fight though. But if it's an option, you take it, and then just make sure you're not on the open and the high ground as well. And then finally, one of the biggies is going to be our awareness, right? There's a lot of different types of awareness, so we'll go down the list here. First, you have HUD awareness, which is just paying attention to your health bar, your ultimate usage. I don't think that one was too bad. Just make sure you're requesting healing when you see that you're low health, right? That was really the only thing there. You have kill feed awareness, right? That one did need work on, so make sure we're paying attention to kill feed, right? Just as a quick reminder, up 1 to 2 or 1 to 2, right, is an advantage or a disadvantage either way, right? You play more aggressively or passively accordingly, right? When you're down, or sorry, I keep saying down. Okay, whatever. When a team is down 2 to 3, that is an advantage or sorry, a won or lost fight. I'm mixing up my words here. 1 to 2 is an advantage or a disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Right? When we've won or lost a fight, we don't want to use ults, and we also want to look to stagger the enemy team if we're winning, and if we lost, then we want to look to get out if possible, or let them kill us early, right? We don't want to just sit in the middle and then stagger ourselves, right? Now, on from there, awareness, we have audio awareness. Just make sure keeping our ears open, right? And we're listening to sound effects, to ultimates like the bomb, to footsteps, to gunshots, right? Just make sure we're listening to our surroundings. Turn up your volume if you need to, right? Now on from there, you have character awareness. Make sure we're paying attention to, like, the fact that they were a Reaper. What?
Pay attention to what a character could do.
Yep.
Like, for instance, when I was blading the Lucio, I should have be mindful that he has a boop and that he could increase the gap between us.
Exactly, right? And then like the Reaper as well, making sure that we're not standing like, an inch from the Reaper unless we're going to deflect it. So that's just another one, is just like make sure we're paying attention to their team comp, because team comp dictates playstyle. We're always going to be playing differently against different characters, right? Now, on top of that, probably say one of the bigger ones is paying attention to where's my team at, where's the enemy team at, right? That's gonna give us good awareness of what's happening around us, right? So pay attention to characters in game, right? Now that means that we're not gonna kind of walk around and do slow pans, but instead we're gonna look left, we're gonna look right, we're gonna do a 360 once in a while, especially before getting super aggressive, and we're gonna pay attention to what's everyone up to, where's everyone on the map at, what's everyone doing, and that's gonna give us better awareness of what are we doing, and give us better awareness again, which leads to better decision making. So that's all the points we talked about. So main points, kind of what are the main things to work on. I probably say that awareness is looking like the biggest one. And then survivability was also a pretty big one, but that one will come naturally with the others. But just make sure you're looking to stay alive as well, and focus on how and why did we die, and looking for mistakes as well, right? And trying to identify the mistakes and identify the solutions to the mistakes. Right. On from there, make sure. So number one is awareness. Number two, we're gonna put at mechanics, right? Because there's a lot of different things that went into the mechanics category. Number three, we're gonna put at let's see. Trying to think right now. Number three, we're gonna put at positioning, as a lot of times we just were kind of playing a little bit too passive and too far away from people, and then out in the open as well. Number four, we're gonna put at ult usage, as we need to get better at using that, and then using our on our timing and how we're using it, because we didn't get a whole lot of kills with it, and it is a really important ultimate. And then number five is going to be putting at our ability usage. Now, I'm just putting it there because I feel like using deflect more often should be a semi-easy fix. It's just, making sure you're actually pressing the button, and then blade dashes were also really, really good. So though it is the lowest one, just keep in mind it is also really important to make sure you're actually using the dash ability, or not the dash, deflect ability, right? Actually using it, right? Any questions on anything we've gone over?
I don't think so. That
All right.
sounds all great, and so focus based off of in that order. What I
Yep.
should that's how I should be ironing out one of these. I guess habits.
Yeah, I definitely say that'd be a good idea. Like you might want to put just like, if you're putting deflect individually, you might want to put deflect a bit. Like I might even say like you don't even need to focus at all on mechanics, and deflect might actually go a little bit higher than it's just making sure you're using the ability. But like I said, it's also a semi-easy fix, so that one you might want to just like work on immediately, because it might be like one of the fastest ones to fix if you're just pressing the button more often. All right. But besides that, just you're gonna want to work on it semi in that order, like whichever one you feel like is gonna be the fastest and easiest for you to work on. But yeah, that's it. You have any other additional questions, or are you good?
Is it okay to practice in quick play, or
Yeah,
because
I think we talked about the beginning of the game, but or at the very beginning of the session, right? You're gonna get more value out of practicing in comp, because first off, you'll get used to comp, and then also it's just a more challenging environment. And when you're not being challenged, you're not going to be punished for mistakes. You're not going to therefore learn from
Right.
mistakes. You're not going to be basically you're going to learn to it's building more bad habits, because you're learning to get away with things, right? You're learning I can do this and get away with it, and then you're going to go into comp, and then you're not going to get away with it, and you're going to be like, huh, I thought I could do that, right? I guess I can't now, right?
Right.
So we don't want to be getting into the habit of building bad habits, which is what quick play basically is. Now, playing quick play with friends is completely fine. Playing quick play with, like, if we're just warming up like one game or something like that is fine. But you don't want to make it a habit to just play quick play, especially if your goal is to learn and play comp. Right? If you're just playing the game casually, that's completely fine. But if you're playing the game competitively and you're looking to improve in ranking, then you want to play comp to do that. All right? Any other questions?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, then I'm going to